So thanks everyone for coming back. The next thing we're gonna do is an exercise to connect you with events in your life. And before we start, we're just gonna do like a little mini grounding to get you connected to your memories and your mind and to relax into it a little bit. So I'm gonna ask everyone to put their things down and sit in a circle. And you can close your eyes. You can put your hands on your lap or down beside you. Breathe in and breathe out. We're gonna go through some of your life. So I'm gonna ask you to recall when you were 6 to 9. What happened to you? Recall when you were between the ages of 10 and 13. What did you say about yourself? Recall when you were between the ages 16 to 18. What has already happened to you? Okay, so recall your whole life. What did you want to be that didn't work out? I get you to open your eyes. We're going to ask that you separate in different areas by yourself and you start writing about events in your life. Kind of tell us about your life and a story from beginning to end. So bring up events that kind of shaped who you are today. Maybe they were good things, maybe they were bad things. Just remember as much as you can and keep writing. You have an hour and don't stop until we ask you to. After that hour, we're going to ask you to go into pairs and choose someone that you want to read your story to. And while you're reading, you're going to kind of circle events or things. Oh, and sorry, while you're writing out your stories, if you have emotional moments, just keep writing through them. Just don't stop and make sure you're writing in full, complete sentences. And when you're sharing your story, we're going to ask that you circle the things that bring up emotion or that feel incomplete for you or that are a really pivotal memory. And the people listening, you don't need to coach them. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to touch the person. Just sit and listen and allow them to go through their stories. And we're going to ask that you do that 2-3 times. Okay. Great. What are your story reading? Okay, so we're gonna ask that everyone comes back into the circle for our debriefing exercise. I didn't say that, but I'm saying it right now. So the story writing briefs, we have a couple of questions for you to answer, and one of them is, what was your experience writing the story? How did you feel about your incompletions? And how did it feel to read your story to someone else? And as a pair, how did it feel listening to a story being read to you without reacting? So thanks for sharing, everyone. The next thing we're gonna get you to do is write 2 questions in the book. The first question, what conversation am I always having with myself? And what am I always listening for? And then everyone can share. And that brings us into our homework for the evening. Because this is an experiential program and process and workshop, we ask that the things that we've talked about today to put it into practice in the homework. And this homework is a rounded incompletion you might have with either someone who is deceased or someone that you haven't had contact with. So for me, I chose a cousin of mine who was deceased, and for example, I wrote things that I just hadn't had a chance to say before. There was no judging and no blaming, just without judgment or blame. I just explained that, you know, dear Christian, when you passed away when we were 18 years old, I didn't realize while you were in the hospital with such a bad ailment, disease, that being 18 was a big deal for you. So when you told me, when you were so excited on the phone with me that we were 18 before you went into surgery, I always felt guilty that I brushed it off. And that was just how I felt at the time. So that was my story that I would read to him, my homework. And if there's someone that hasn't been deceased that you can think of that you can write to, you can use someone you've never met. For example, when I was in my late 20s, I found out my dad had a daughter with someone else, so I wrote to the stepsister I never met. So just so long as they're connected to you in some way and you haven't had a chance to say something to them. And then we're just gonna close our day with the same kind of ceremony that we opened up with.